All right, bruh fans. Well, technically sisters as well, but really this is bruh in general. But this clip that I want to show you, and I think I may have found a way to bypass the, copyright claims from Viacom and whatnot. And to be honest, I wish I would have figured this out months ago, but better late than never, right? So basically there's a clip that's about a minute and some change long. It's not even 2 minutes long, I believe. And I know a lot of people are watching bruh for the first time because they're airing episodes on BET now. Let me kind of set the stage here. Now, please don't think I'm just rambling at the mouth, but there's a lot of confusion because I posted this clip online a couple days ago about the fact that, this scene from Tyler Perry's Bruh pretty much shows why the ladies on Sistas will never have a healthy relationship. And Andi, yes, KJ Smith as Andrea Barnes came on Bruh. She was in a total of 4 episodes, I believe. She first appeared in episode 2, My Own 2 Feet, where she came over to Mike's loft. And then she also appeared in episodes 22, 23, and 24. Better Late Than Never, Nelly, and Bad Cologne. I know people don't want to pay BET Plus, but I'd highly suggest, well then again, if you did some major digging online, you can find these episodes, but I'm not telling you where because support black business, y'all. So I know there's an argument of, well, BET isn't owned by black people. The reason I say support black business is because when you watch these shows that Tyler Perry creates, or any black creator for that matter, you're supporting them, the black writers, the directors, producers, and most importantly, the people who bring these scripts to life, the black actors and actresses. So you can miss me with that whole, well, it's a white-owned company. Well, hey, watch the show. It's good. But I did a video way back when explaining the continuity of Bruh Season 1 and how the events of Season 1 actually line up to be before Sistas Episode 1. Yeah, believe it or not, but Bruh Season 1 takes place before Sistas Season 1. Now, in terms of Season 2, which does pick up directly after Season 1, I don't really know, but the thing about it is Bruh isn't heavily tied into Sistas the same way that Ruthless is with the Oval, and we know how wonky that timeline is. But in any case, Bellamy, their boss, I believe made a 1 episode appearance in the episode you're about to see the clip from, which is episode 22, Better Late Than Never. In the law firm, Mike and Andi actually work together. They don't work in the same legal department. They work in kind of like different branches. I believe that Andi is more on the, like the marriage side in regards to like people going through divorces and whatnot. Whereas Mike and Hayden are both in like the tax department. Mike, or any other Bruh character for that matter, has never appeared on screen in Sistas, but it was in episode 1 or 2 of Sistas Season 2 when Mike was name dropped in regards to Andi trying to get someone from their job, or Andi's talking with Fatima, trying to figure out somebody who can help out Gary with his legal issues in terms of money, tax evasion, money laundering and whatnot. And Mike was mentioned. Oh no, but he's an ass. So Hayden, okay, we'll get Hayden. So basically from there, Bellamy shows up, and remember in Sistas Season 1, Bellamy got fired when Andi exposed that he was working together with Morris and Gary's wife Jasmine and whatnot. So continuity wise, the events of this episode take place prior to Sistas Episode 1. Remember that in episode 1 of Sistas, it was like Andi's birthday, and I think about the 6-month anniversary, or the fact that it had been 6 months since these two had started their affair, and he still hadn't left his wife. So that's the foundation. So the clip itself, the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to just have a freeze frame, basically the screenshot of Andi and Mike, and the setup is they're working on the same case, and Bellamy came by pretty much, hey, this is a big case, and if you could you work off hours? And they did. Well, out of the office at Mike's house, Mike's loft, and that's the setup. And I'm not going to get into the whole thing, but Andi is somebody he finds attractive, even though he literally, like the prior episode, asked his you know, basically friend with benefits Pamela, aka Pam, not the one from the salon, to be in an exclusive relationship. Yet he pretty much wanted to test the waters with Andi not too long after. But we're not going to get into the whole Pam and Andi alliance against Mike. That happens in episode 24, Bad Cologne. And like I said before, for those of you who are waiting to get to that point of the series on BET, have at it. But the first 2 seasons of the show are on BET Plus. But Andi is only in 4 episodes of season 1. But let me go ahead. I want to play the clip, and I recorded the audio, so I took the video and took the MP4. Basically, I stripped the audio from the clip, so I don't think that's against copyright policy. And if that's the case, we're good to go. So I want to play that full clip and then come back and talk about it. And if it turns out this is actually how it works, I can get away with this. I will do this more often. That way I won't have to have clips chopped up, because that's so exhausting. But here we go.
Speaking of personal, I'm having this issue, and I've been talking to my girls about it, and I wanted your opinion on something.
Okay.
It turns out all my girls and I are having man issues.
Oh, shit.
And so, what?
I know what that means. You know how this conversation goes. You're gonna tell me, all men are dogs, and then you're gonna ask me what the hell is wrong with y'all.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, listen. The truth is, a lot of us need to grow.
Right, that's my point.
Yeah, but a lot of y'all need to grow up too.
What?
Mean what? If we're gonna have a fair conversation, you need to let it go both ways.
You know what?
What?
Never mind. Back to work, right?
I'm just saying. I'm trying to help you. You came to me. I'm trying to...
Back to work, right?
See? That's not fair.
It is.
How is that fair?
Because I know you're about to go on some rah-rah rant about pro-male BS.
I am pro-male.
You're pro-dog.
Damn, it's like that.
Yeah, it's like that.
I was just saying...
No. We are not doing this. Thank you, though. Back to work.
Now, this clip has garnered some controversy online, and hopefully the first segment of this video shows you that this is the same continuity. Like, the Andi in this show is the same Andi from Sistas. She mentions that her and all of her friends are going through man trouble, and she asked Mike for advice because Andi was just there for work. Mike was the one who was trying to flirt, and from there she does kind of let down her walls to honestly ask some questions about men in general. Now, upon watching the clip, it's easy for me to go, yep, this is exactly why the women on Sistas can't get and keep a man, due to the fact that they refuse to take note of or admit to their own faults. Because the thing about it is, they're quick to call out men for being immature, the fact that they're dogs, the fact that we have to patch them up and do a lot of work on them. And what do we get in return? They take the work we put in to help them become better men, they took the work that we put into them to turn them into boys to men, and then they go and take our hard labor and be the right kind of man to another woman. But not once do these women do a self-evaluation, a self-check, and go, you know what? Maybe I'm the one who's in this situation, because it seems that I always end up either attracting the same kind of man, or every man that I date, things always end badly because of this, X, Y, and Z. They never point the finger at themselves and say, you know what? Maybe I'm the person who's in the wrong here. And even though, and look, if you watch, bruh, Mike is an asshole. But this was one of the few times where he was being a considerate person. However, I will admit, upon watching the clip one more time before doing the video, I do believe things could have been worded a bit better on his part, because despite the fact that he is telling the truth, you kind of got to watch yourself with Andi, because remember, if you watch the full episodes and whatnot like I have, it took a while for Andi to get to the point where she would open up and ask Mike for advice. But the thing about it is, Mike should have known better than to instantly go to, well, yeah, you know what? Men were immature. Some of us need to grow up. And he's like, exactly. Well, some of y'all need to grow up too. I think the thing about that is maybe Mike should have heard Andi out first, because I don't know how far this conversation would have went to, but I feel like these two were having the same kind of conversation I recall having in college. Like, you know, when there was a study group for a class, and instead of studying, we would spend the entire study session talking about the professor, about, you know, what we didn't like about the class and this and that. Or, you know, at work, you know, usually off the clock, for example, or during, you know, lunch hour or whatever, we'd be talking like, you know, man, this job, blah, 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 it sucks or whatever. So I feel like the same thing could have happened there, where, Andi would have just let it all out in terms of talking about, oh, here's my girl Sabrina, here's what she's going through with this guy, Karen's going through this with her deadbeat, you know, Zach. And remember, this is pre-season 1, so Gary is the guy that Andi would have been with. Zach and Karen, obviously those two together. No telling about Sabrina and Danny though, because, you know, it's up in the air. But in any case, I will applaud Tyler Perry for the writing here, because the fact that even though Andi's a bit insufferable, she is in character to how she is in Sistas. A person who does not want to hear a damn thing about how she could be in the wrong about something. And even if she does, she will cut that person off and never go back to them for advice again. And that's well within her character. But it just goes to show, if these women want a healthy and successful relationship, they will realize their own shortcomings. They will apologize. And, well, not to make this all about Zatima, look at how Fatima and Zach interact. And I remember in early season 3, I'm like, man, this sucks. You know, the more Fatima interacts with these women, the more she becomes like one of them. And I'll never forgive that one episode where, you know, the next morning after they had, you know, spent the night together, Fatima was a total bitch, and she called herself one. She did. So even though I still said she was in bitch mode, and I'm like, what is she acting this way for? And then she apologized later that day. A lot of the women on Sistas, they don't really do that, especially Danny, Andi, and Sabrina. It's like, you know, I'm not saying Sabrina isn't sincere sometimes, but more often than not, even when she's like, you know what, I'm going to do things for myself, it isn't long before she's eventually either convinced or persuaded to do something because one of her friends, namely Danny, tells her to do it. So it's pretty weird. But regardless, I think that Bruh is so good because of the fact that the guys on it do realize their shortcomings. Sometimes it takes longer than you would like them to come to the realization that, hey, I'm the one that needs to grow and whatnot. But they do recognize this. For example, John in season 2, there was a girl named Charlie from season 1 that he was supposed to call and whatnot and hang out with. But when he was talking with Mike, he's like, Tom, he's like, nah, you know what? I don't think I'm really looking for anything serious because I need to, you know, get myself on my own 2 feet, move out of my mom's apartment and whatnot, and, you know, really have my own place and whatnot before I start going on dates. And Mike admits to his substance abuse, and now he's getting rehab for it. Not to mention, before that, he lays it all on the line of Pamela about being an asshole and whatnot, and he wants to be with her. And I said that the thing about Mike is, instead of being a mature man and telling Pam that, hey, I actually have feelings for you, he acts like a little brat for most of season 1, like popping up and interrupting all of Pam's dates. And I still don't even know why she gave him a chance, but, you know, hey, it is what it is. Bill is the most frustrating of the men because, well, even though he does admit to his shortcomings and whatnot, he's a person that's annoying as hell because he wants to commit, but then he doesn't want to, but he's aware of his own shortcomings, but sometimes it's just delusional. And Tom is the cool guy. He's the level-headed one of the group. But I will say the reason I think Bruh does better in terms of story is the fact that the Bruhs are not afraid to, well, I won't say they're not afraid, but we actually see them admit to their faults and how that impacts their dynamic with women. Whereas on Sistas, the women just, even when one of their girls tells them, hey, I think you should do this, or, you know, hey, I think you handle that, you know, a certain way, the woman who receives said advice either won't take it, and then they're always quick to blame the man for something, like Danny telling Karen about all the shit, Zach put you through. And then Fatima talking about, oh, Gary did this to you and that. But they never say, well, Andy, you're the one who keeps taking him back. Or Karen, you're the one who kept taking back Zach out of everything he did to you. And the same with Danny is like, look, you say all this stuff about Preston doing wrong, but you never said anything about how you got caught twice with 2 different men on separate occasions. And Sabrina, well, she's Sabrina. So I think, believe it or not, the scene between Andy and Mike here is possibly the most important scene of Bruh, due to the fact that it solidifies the foundation of the relationship issues that are faced by the women on Sistas. Yeah, I said it. So I highly recommend watching Bruh for anybody who's skeptical of it. The first season has its rough spots, but I still enjoy it. And I forgot. It's been so long. Damn, season 2 ended on December 2nd, and I think I did my review in the middle of the month. So it's been quite a while since I've talked about Bruh. Even though I'm still skeptical on season 3 reviewing it, I will probably review it because I missed the show. It's not coming back until June, I think. I forgot the date, but I know I did a video on it. But it is a show where I feel like there is a bit more development. That's not to say the story does not drag at times, but for the most part, I feel like it's an engaging show. Whereas Sistas, which is still a show I enjoy, and season 4 did improve for the most part, aside from the last 3 episodes, I think Bruh is a show that stands on its own 2 feet. Yes, I would love to see Bruh characters on Sistas and vice versa, but it's not a necessity. It is just a wish I had. Regardless, I think that this scene between Mike and Andy really does solidify the women needing to realize their own shortcomings, and that, hey, not every man is a dog. Not every, dog is, the knight in shining armor that you think he is. Because it's funny how they call out people who are good men or give out good advice, but then you literally entertain the company of a dog. Wow, Andy, you're talking big for someone who's messing around with a married man. There you go. But again, that's just my 2 cents. I feel like there was more I needed to say, but then I thought, wait, this video is probably like 15 minutes long already. So, fingers crossed that YouTube copyright does not flag the video because I use the audio from a scene as opposed to playing the entire scene in itself. But yeah, just again, for reference, this is Bruh Season 1, Episode 22, Better Late Than Never, found on BET+. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you think the women of Sistas will ever come to grips with how they need to adjust themselves? That's not to say some of the men they interact with aren't flawed and need to mature and whatnot, but more often than not, we need to make certain changes in our own lives in order to, what do they say? You are what you attract, or something along those lines. And if, like, I think I saw this in a video. Look, I've been listening to a bunch of these, like, podcasts or YouTube channels where it's kind of like, advice for males, because there's so many like, oh, here are books for women to read about relationships and this and that. But there aren't a lot of resources out there to warn men about predatory women in regards to those who, only are, I hate to just resort to this, either gold diggers or those who want the nice guy as the last person, after they've been, dried up from Chad and Tyrone, and then they realize, oh my gosh, it took me three baby daddies and me to lose my good looks to realize that the men I've been chasing aren't husband material, so I'm just going to go over to the safe guy that I put in the friend zone. Oh, it's sad that I can relate to that. But in any case, I feel like these women need to wake up, because Karen was established to be 36 in the first episode of Sistas. So I'm guessing the age range of all the sisters is between 34, 37. I'm just kind of, spitballing right there, because I think they all met in college, if I remember correctly. So basically, yeah, they were within the same age group. They need to wise up, or they're going to be cat ladies, which I think is no problem. I prefer dogs to cats, even though cats make, better meme material, but it is what it is. So I think that my episode review for this episode in particular was probably my longest episode review of Bruh, because I had so much to say. I really could have used like 2 full episodes of just Andi and Mike sitting at that table, and Andi would be explaining all the details of her girl's man issues, and as a continuity whore like myself, I'd be like, oh, yes, I remember that. That's a nod to this character, because it would have been so good to have a discussion like that. And to be completely honest, for as much as we talk about how, like Miss Lisa needs to come back, Karen's mom needs to come back to straighten her daughter out, or some of the other characters, mothers or relatives need to come speak sense into them, I think what would make for a hell of a crossover would be for Bruh and Sisters to kind of have like a crossover episode, and it's kind of like the men and women kind of going back and forth about what men want in women, women want in men, and how they both need to kind of both sides need to change for the better. I'm not saying that the cast of Bruh need to the 4 main men of Bruh need to hook up with the 4 main women of Sisters, but it would be an interesting dynamic to see that mirror of itself in regards to, wait a minute, You're the male version of me, and you're the female version of me. So here's something that I don't want to see in my partner, and as a result, I can change that about myself in order to attract something different than the same kind of man or the same kind of woman, depending on what show you're talking about here. And I know I'm rambling, but I think I'm making sense. So, with that being said, take a moment, hit the thumbs up button to show you like the video. Follow me on social media. Links are in the description below. Hit subscribe and hit the bell icon and select all. That way you do not miss out whenever I post content on the channel. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next one.